something we both are very passionate about. And we're just going to throw something out there. But before we do, Regan, um, let everybody know how you're doing.
Hey, I'm awesome. I'm really excited. I'm super pumped to be here.
Great, great. And you have been very busy, lots of traveling, but you've also been getting people. I mean, you've been really getting some people pumped up to move forward with what they're doing. Is that not correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty crazy since we last spoke. I've been in a whole lot of different countries and helping a whole lot of different people, but I've never been so full and so satisfied at the same time.
Those are great words, full and satisfied.
Right.
Well, when we talked, because I think we both, even in the episode that we were together in, and, there's me asking you a lot of questions, which, man, you got me so fired up, and I was like, I'm going to co-host. I've got to co-host with her, and I hope this isn't the one and done as well. I'm going to really make sure that this goes well, because I really connect, and I feel like I love your thinking. So this is going to be great to see how our cross pollination works. But
Absolutely.
we talked about why they don't make it, and
Right.
why they're not manifesting what they want, and we really didn't have an agenda. So I figured, why don't you go ahead and start? What are you running into? Why do you see that they're not making it and manifesting the things that they want?
Yeah, look, I think there's many different reasons that people, block themselves from manifesting what they desire. And it's kind of a crazy thing, manifestation, because I feel like a lot of people think it's like this big crazy thing that they have to learn and like teach themselves how to do. But I kind of believe the opposite. I believe ultimately that we were all born being able to manifest anything that we desire, right? I believe that kids can manifest at such a high level, but with society and everything that goes on, I feel like we shut ourselves off from it, if anything, right? So for me, it hasn't been so much about helping people and teaching them manifestation. It's actually helping them remember. And often when they crack through manifestation, they start going, oh, I've actually done this before, or I've done this automatically in the past, or I remember a time where that just happened. And yeah, for me, it's been really helping them get what they deeply desire, but from a space of reminding them how to do it instead of actually just telling them.
Right. It's kind of like, it's like digging wells. Back in a time when people would be, even in the desert, they would dig a well, and then they would put a rock or something there around it to say, hey, here's where the water is. So basically, it sounds to me that you're like really helping people know where new water is, where the reservoir water is, that fresh water, and saying, hey, remember? And here it is. And then them building a map to get back to that place. I mean, is that what you're kind of doing with people, or?
Yeah, look, it absolutely is that. And I think the one thing that we should touch on is the map side of thing, because a lot of people are, they come in this space and they're like, this is what I want to manifest, this is what I deeply desire, but I just don't know how. And they're looking for the perfect plan. They're looking for the plan that's going to show them the way and give them security, and they're looking for the 3 steps to follow. And often that's their biggest limitation, because if you dive deep into manifestation, all the amazing things you've manifested in your life, in every area of your life, you've never controlled that process. Think about, a lover that you've met. You didn't go, well, I have to meet this person that will introduce me to that person that will tell me to go to that event, and then I'll meet that person there. I mean, you can't control that stuff, right? So manifestation is, it's more about locking in what you deeply desire, stepping into that version of you that automatically vibrates at that frequency and attracts it, and then actually just stepping back and taking daily action, but letting the universe do the work at the same time. Because the more that you're looking for the perfect map or the perfect plan, the more you actually shut yourself off to all the things that are trying to just flow into your life.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, because in my daily connections with people and things, and that goes into this whole fixed mindset, versus a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And they get people, they get fixed on something, and it's like they're rooted in it. And in order to change it, and I believe even in our last episode that we did together, or with the interview with you, just talking about that, change, it's what you believe about change. Change
Right.
is, people say change is hard. But, well, if you wrote down every day that change is easy, you can begin to work on a transformation in your own mind on how it's what you believe about change so that you're able to see other options and you can see other things start to take place. But you're so right when it comes to just trying to build a life on, turning a framework into a law. You know what I mean? Trying to create laws that they weren't meant to govern you. They weren't meant to rule your life. They're just frameworks. And what we do is, I think sometimes maybe it's out of desperation. I don't know. Maybe it's out of, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. So if it worked for them, it's got to work for me. But I don't think there's anything factual that if it worked for them, it works for me. Because the last I tried that, it did not work.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think society does it to us. We're shown through school that, here's the 3 things you've got to do, and then here's the system you've got to follow, and here's the rules you've got to live your life by, and here's what's expected of you, and definitely don't fuck it up, because then you're going to fail, right? Yeah. And so I think, we're kind of conditioned to think that way, and a lot of what I do is really about disrupting that level of thinking and really calling in this higher level of thinking so that you can manifest, and so that you can come to a place and you can create your own rules, and you can create your own framework, and that actually serves you, that can get you faster results instead of trying to put yourself in this box. And when you realize that all of a sudden there is no box, there's a whole lot more freedom in your mindset.
Absolutely. And what I love is that you said disruption, because people ask me, they've said, hey, have you ever thought about running for some political office? And I was like, well, number one, the first thing I would do if I ever did was stand up and say, yes, I did everything you're probably going to find.
Right.
Just go ahead and start right there. But my platform would be to be deliberately disruptive, which I have no desire to be in politics. But the fact is, the disruption part is good, but it's better when you're deliberate about it. Do it on purpose.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And you know what's funny? I had someone challenge me about the word disruptive recently, because it's part of my mission is to disrupt your version of normal, and I say that a lot when I'm working with people, and they're like, oh, that sounds aggressive, like, why can't you do that with ease, like, why does it have to be disruptive? And I'm like, okay, look, let me reframe this another way. I am going to shift you to new levels of thinking. I am going to elevate your mindset so that your life becomes this life that you can barely recognize, and if I need to disrupt you in that process, then I apologize, right? But it's sometimes it just happens by default. So I think it's good to get clear in the work that we both do. Our intention is not just to disrupt for the sake of disrupting. The intention is to get that person to this elevated level of manifestation and success. And if they end up being disrupted in the process, then I'm sorry.
Right. And I agree with you. It's not about, we're not just doing it to do it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm going to wear this shirt just to piss the world off.
Right.
It's and you see, because you see people that do that stuff all the time, and unfortunately, that does make our work much harder, because we get misunderstood in a lot of cases. But you know what? The reason we're able to be effective, I think, Regan, in what we're doing, and others like us that believe so passionately about this, is someone's got to stand up and say it, and say the things that you're not willing to say to yourself.
Right.
They've got to be willing to get you to think those things, to think about those things, and really draw you to the edge. I always give this image of and I know in your travels you've probably seen these types of locations, but like a waterfall. Just imagine this big waterfall's there. You've been going through this tunnel in this cave and in this mountain, and you come where there's a waterfall, and someone says jump.
Right.
And you say, what's on the other side? And they say, but just trust me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm your guide. I've been to this place. But they still, even though you told them you jumped, they still have to go through this. And you've got to be deliberate in how you hold them accountable for them taking the journey. They asked you to bring them there.
Right, absolutely. And it's such a... I think it's such a common trap that people fall into, because, consciously they're like, I want to jump, right? I want to jump, and I see you're on the other side, and I'm willing, and I'm able, yet they don't physically jump, right? And they have to jump. We can't be the ones that push them to jump. They need to physically take the step. They need to be enrolled in their own rescue, and if they're not going to get there. So something that I do to help people is And I help start pushing their mindset so their mind can actually see, what is on the other side of where they're jumping to. Because if your mind can't see that, it marks it as unsafe, and it marks it as unknown, and it marks it as danger. It marks it as death, let's be honest, right? Your unconscious mind your unconscious is wired to keep you safe, right? And if you're trying to push out of this comfort zone because you know that's where you're going to elevate and grow, if it doesn't know that you're going to be safe, it's going to do everything it can to keep you there, right? It's going to create fears, it's going to self-sabotage, the little self-doubt thing's going to come up, the big self-doubt thing's going to come up, right? All of this will show up. But I think the minute that people realize, I haven't actually conditioned my mind to see what's waiting on the other side, I haven't actually shown my unconscious that it's okay and that it's good and I want to call this stuff in, the moment they do that, all of the limitations tend to dissipate quite rapidly, because all of a sudden their brain goes, oh, you got this. You can handle that, all right? It might not be smooth, but you're not going to die. Off you go, right? So I think a big part of it is really helping people to see what is on the other side of that.
Right, and you know what you just did? You just made change. You made change palatable.
Right.
That's what you did. You seasoned it. You took some of the edge off of it, but it's still, you did it on purpose. It was deliberate. Everything you just said is all about being deliberate with how you lead somebody. And I feel like that's the type of disruption that you and I are talking about.
Absolutely. It has to be.
It's how it's seasoned, right?
It has to be. It has to be deliberate, and it has to be intentional. And it's funny, like some of my private clients that have spent a lot of in-person time with me one-on-one, they're kind of blown away. They're like, Regan, like everything in your life is so intentional. And I'm like, but why would I leave anything to hope and luck and chance? Like, why would I not be intentional about everything that I'm creating? And I love helping others step into that mindset as well, and actually realizing that, wow, I am actually in control of my whole life and I can manifest anything that I desire, but you need to be intentional through that process in order to have that happen.
And that moves into another big thing with that fixed mindset. So everything we're talking about is growth mindset. We're moving from fixed. Everything, we're opening the door. We're getting away from narrow focus, because that's what most people do, is they put a spotlight on a very narrow space.
Yeah.
Which means you can't, it's like taking a big flashlight that only has so much of a radius or circumference. You know what I mean? It covers only a certain area. And so what we try to do is walk only where we see the light.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And we need to be able to understand that the only way we're going to expand, how wide and bright this light is to spend a little bit of time in discovery, bringing more things into our awareness.
Right.
So we can make better decisions, and get to that spot where, and you know what, even if it's a wrong decision, it's still, we're building a muscle of confidence.
Right. I mean, I would definitely prefer to go 30 steps in the wrong direction than never take a step to figure out if it was right or wrong. And, I think as well, and I love what you talk about with the spotlight and being okay with being in the darkness and being in the unknown for a little bit. And what I see with all successful people that I've been around is their ability to be okay with being uncertain. We live in a society where there's a fair amount of security and certainty. There's a fair amount of, follow the plan and then it's going to get you to X, Y, Z. But sometimes you have to be okay with sitting in the uncertainty and realizing that's not a bad thing. And it's actually all right to live your life kind of on the edge of uncertainty a little bit, so that you're constantly pushing it. And yes, you might have to make some bigger decisions. And yes, you might need to be more onto your mindset. And yes, you might need to deal with limits that come up. But knowing that if you play with this uncertainty and push it instead of sitting in comfortable security, then the rewards are going to be so much greater at the same time.
Right, and that's why you and I are talking about. That's the whole thing.
Right.
Making things happen.
Yeah.
Why people aren't making it, and why they're, not manifesting what they want.
Uh-huh.
I just, I recently, there are people, and I told someone who has a goal for something, and I told them a story about what I used to do. When I was a younger kid, this is hilarious, I had a 1976 Plymouth Duster. That was my first car.
I love it.
I spray painted it blue.
Did you?
Yeah, man, and it had a shift on the column. And man, that car, you couldn't have told me it wasn't anything but amazing, right?
Right.
But when I knew I was looking for a better vehicle one day, first of all, I took care of the one I had like it was the one I wanted. That was
right.
and I think a lot of people miss that. They miss that, hey, get better. Like what you said, Regan, it seems like you're so intentional. That's right. So if the car you're driving right now, be intentional about taking care of it like the one you want.
Oh my God.
It's the same thing with your life. Be intentional about your life now for the one that you want. But I told this person, I said, you know what I would do? I would see a car that I maybe one day wanted. I would go to that car. And this is back in the day when there was either, real cameras with filming them.
Yeah.
And I'd have a camera and I'd say, hey, do you mind taking a picture of me next to your car?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd say, why? I said, because I'm going to have one of these.
Right.
I'm going to have a car like this.
Right.
And so I take that picture and I put it somewhere where I could see it. And I needed to begin to see myself into it. I began to, do in the natural what I wanted to happen in the universe to eventually show up into my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I know it's just a car, but guess what? I got every car that I wanted.
Right.
And I know it's a car. And I've tried to do that with everything.
Yeah.
Like a buddy of mine bought me a shirt one time, and he, I was telling him, and it wasn't my goal, but it was a success statement, something that was on it that was something deep and personal between he and I that he knew about. Mm-hmm. How about he found a shirt, bought that shirt, came to my house one night, knocked on my door, I opened the door and said, here, I just want to make sure you got this, and then he left. I opened it up, looked at the shirt, and it was the exact same statement that I've been talking about.
Right.
I, to this day, still have that shirt. That was over 10 years ago. I still have the same shirt, to the point where all the letters are gone from what it says.
I love
I can
it.
still see the impression.
It's so cool.
It is a part of me.
Yeah, and look, it's so cool, really acting as if, and it's such a huge law of manifestation, is simply to, treat what you have as if it is what is already coming in, right? And it's trusting and knowing that it's done and locking in that outcome. But I think it's important to touch on, it's the same when it comes to identity. I always tell people, regardless of what you want to call into your life, material objects, people, greater levels of change, impact, partnerships, businesses, money, whatever, like you can't attract something in if you're not vibing at the same frequency of it. It's that simple, right? So ultimately you need to become the version of you that has already received whatever it is that you desire. But you might think, but Regan, how do I do that if I haven't received it? Well, you have to believe that you've received it first, and you have to become that version of you. So it's kind of the same thing, and it may sound really weird, but people need to literally go, well, what is it? And then what would I be doing if I already had that? What would I be thinking? What would I believe about life? What would I tolerate in my life? What would I not tolerate in my life? What kind of things would I say? What kind of people would I be around? What would I do? How would I spend my time and my money? Like, all of this is critical, but you have to actually be it first. And I talk about this a lot in terms of creating your first $1 million. People are like, I can't wait to be a millionaire after I've created my first $1 million. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, you have to become the millionaire first. And then the money will show up just as a default, right? And it's the same with anything in your life. Like, you have to be it first before it shows.
But I totally agree. I believe that the universe responds to what we do, and it's attracted to us. We don't need to pursue things. Things will pursue us.
Right.
But if we're not attracting it, it's not going to work. It's like light is drawn to light. So if you're a negative person, guess what? You're going to attract all kinds of negative people.
Right.
That's why people, I don't understand why people come and say, I don't get it. They just come in and want to tell me everything that's going wrong with everybody else and blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, so you're like a 5-star restaurant. Let the dump truck back up and dump that on your front stoop.
Right.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
And the only reason they're doing it is because you give permission. You're giving permission to the things that you say you don't want, but yet it's what you're surrounded by, and it's what that's your environment. That's where you're living.
Right, exactly. And like, I have clients, for example, and they're human. It happens to everyone, but they might be like, Regan, I've got this big goal and I'm taking action, but I feel a lot of like fear and anxiety and self-doubt around it right now. What do I do? What do I do? How do I stop it? And I simply say, well, you know what? The version of you that had already achieved this big goal that you're working towards, would they tolerate that kind of mindset in their life? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so don't tolerate it. Right? It's a choice. And you really have to choose, what do you tolerate in your life? Also, what do you not tolerate in your life? And what is the higher version of you, the version of you that's calling in and manifesting everything at a higher level? What do they tolerate and not tolerate? Because if you're tolerating stuff that version of you wouldn't tolerate, then you're not going to get there.
Yeah, that is so powerful, and it is so true. I like to get people to write out, like, literally a termination of agreement and a termination of contract.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, it's a termination. I terminate the agreement that I have with. I cancel this agreement. So no different than if you had a client that sent a termination letter. It's the same thing.
It's so cool. You know, I love that.
Or writ of divorcement. Hey, I divorce myself from this.
Yeah.
And it's through irreconcilable differences that I am leaving.
I love that. And you are not allowed back, ever.
That's right. And so you have been dismissed. Locks are changed. Take your stuff and you can go.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
You don't live here anymore.
Right. That's so cool.
Yeah. So let me ask you, this is cool. I want to jump on this too, like throw this around. How much, you know, and I want us to dialogue over this, like, what's the difference for you between willpower and discipline? Can you do it alone with willpower? Do you think you can just make it with willpower?
Willpower and discipline. I think you need both. I think it's a combination of the two. You know, willpower for me comes back to alignment, right? Because I find that regardless of how much hard work you need to put into something, if it's in alignment with your truth and if you're being completely honest and real around what you're desiring to call into your life, then you don't actually need much willpower, right? Because you might be doing a lot of hard work. You might be like staying up all day and all night, but you don't necessarily need to will yourself to do it because it's in alignment, so it actually feels good. So I think there's a little bit of willpower involved, and then it's kind of the same with discipline, to be honest. Like, people might say, man, you know, I'm really struggling with discipline. Like, I'm trying to create this business right now, but I'm just not motivated and I'm not disciplined and I just keep not doing it. And I'm like, well, do you really want to do it? Like, really? Do you really want to do it? So I think they kind of go hand in hand, but I don't think that either of them are extremely like huge factors if you're actually living in alignment, because the alignment is enough to give you enough willpower and discipline to create whatever you want.
I love it. I love that. That is great. And I like the alignment because it's just, once again, I feel like you would spend less time spinning your wheels.
Right.
If you really understood what alignment was.
Right, absolutely. And this is what I say to people. I'm like, you know what, there's so many people working hard out there right now, and they're so busy being busy. Like, they're like, I'm working so hard, Regan. Like, I stayed up and I hustled all night and I did this and that. And I'm like, really? Like, to be fair, you know, if you're in alignment, again, everything you're doing is intentional. And everything you're doing is in alignment with the higher thing you're looking to call in. So everything you do then gets a result, rather than just being busy for the sake of being busy, right?
Right. Wouldn't it be cool if people just, you know, with the alignment, I mean, just established a practice, you know, once again, why are people not making it? Why are they not manifesting what they want? Well, alignment is a big key. You need to sit down and write, you know, what are you aligned with? I mean, look at it from people to the things that you're doing, your activities, to the way you're thinking, all of it, because you know, here's the thing. The past can tell you a little bit, right? There's so many people that are stuck because they only look at the past.
Right.
So they live in their current and they miss the present, right? Then you get people that only stay in the present and they try to ignore the past and they're scared of the future. Mm-hmm. Then you get people that are present in the future, in their current condition and where they are, but they are looking at the future, and then they say, how do I get there? And that's where alignment can be the strongest. A little bit of your past, you understand a little bit of those things, but in my opinion, I mean, it's once you separate yourself from the things that have held you back from the past, you have such a better trajectory, better aim. You have more stamina and more strength to aim and shoot for what it is you're going for.
Right.
And you're able to create a better, I don't even know what sounds, this is not even eloquent, a more straighter line.
Right.
To where you want to go, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I get asked it a lot. People say, Regan, but how do I know if what I'm doing is in alignment? How do I know if this business is in alignment, or this product that I'm launching, or, this holiday that I'm going to take? Like, how do I know? And alignment's very simple. Like, I feel like it's a word that's kind of tossed around in the industry these days, but
right, not understood.
Right, and not understood properly, because it's actually so simple. And I simply ask them, I'm like, well, what are you aligning to? And if they can't answer that question, then of course they're not going to know whether they're in alignment. So I always get people to really lock in their big vision, and I ask them, what do you want to create with your life? If you could remove any sense of how do I do it, or am I good enough for that, or what are people going to think, or all of that. If you would just to park that for a second and simply ask yourself, what is my big vision as far as my mind can see? If I was to create a huge legacy and live a fulfilled life and then die and leave all of that behind, what does that look like, right? And if they're not clear on that, then things come up in their life and they're like, should I do this or should I do that? And I'm like, well, of course you're not going to know whether it's in alignment unless you have something to align to. So on the flip side, if they have their big vision and two opportunities come up and they're like, do I go left or right? It's a very simple decision of asking themselves, well, which one is in alignment with my vision? And then if you're still not sure, it's as easy as actually going within and just simply going, well, which one feels good? Which one is going to get me to my vision? Which one feels right now? And really trusting yourself that your gut instinct on it is right? And I feel like too many people look for external validation, and they ask people that aren't aligning to the same vision as them, oh, what should I do? And then they take advice from these people that don't know anything about alignment, versus they actually have all the answers within them, but they just need to trust and tap into that feeling first.
Right, that's kind of like a villain to your making decisions, because it is a confirmation bias. You're biased toward getting the outsourcing your thinking and getting people to agree with you instead of you understanding it for yourself.
Right, exactly.
That's like a villain to your success. I mean,
Scary.
That is an adversary.
Right.
It puts you in an adversarial spot, and you don't even know what you're fighting against, but you're actually creating the resistance.
Right.
It's like you got resistance. You got resistance when you're trying to believe and change and move forward, and then you have resistance because of the fact that you're not aligned properly, and you're listening to all the other voices instead of taking what's on the inside of you and bringing that up to a level where it only will attract those who can see where you're trying to go, not trying to tell you based on what they think.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And this is like, when I work with people, I say, I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to make any decisions for you. I'm simply going to help you tap into what's within you, because you actually have got this and you know it all, and everything is within you right now. And if you have the ability to really tap in and trust the right stuff, you'll notice that you get more and more in tune with yourself. And I call it the nudges. Like, you get the pulls and the pulls and the nudges, the pushes and the pulls and the nudges rather, from the universe. And if you have the ability to be guided by that stuff and listen to that stuff and be okay with saying yes to that stuff, even if it doesn't make logical sense, even if logically it's like, this is a crazy freaking decision right now, if you actually trust that stuff, then chances are you're being pulled even further and further into alignment, even though you can't see it.
Typically everything that I felt was a grand slam, happened when it was really illogical.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Things, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, that was completely illogical, but it worked. And once again, I think it was because, I found myself anchored in some sort of fixed way of thinking.
Right. Exactly.
And
exactly.
I had my little flashlight out in my little spot, and that's, whatever light, uncovered that little space. I felt like that's all it was,
Right.
Have you ever experienced that yourself?
Like 1,000 times, and even just recently, so I've just got back from Mexico, and I was at an amazing event there. Now, it did not make logical sense for me to be at that event. Like, if I was making logical decisions, I probably shouldn't have said yes. But long story short, I ended up meeting the co-founder of the company that was running the event. He was like, you've got to come to Mexico. And I was just like, okay, all right, I'll come. I felt the nudge, I felt the pull, and I listened to it. Now, straight after I booked the ticket and locked in the dates and was like, guys, I'm going to Mexico for a week, I got then asked to speak in London, right? Now, this was a great opportunity. There was great visibility. I would have made great money. I would have helped people. It would have ticked all of my normal yes boxes in business. And they were like, speak in London. I was like, I can't. I'm going to Mexico. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I need to go to Mexico. And they're like, but Regan, we need you in London. And I'm like, I'm going to Mexico, right? And it's so funny. And even like going to that event, I was like, I don't really know why I'm here. Like, I don't really have a reason for being here. What am I doing? Like, man, I should have gone to London. But I went to Mexico. And sure enough, it was freaking life-changing, and it's exactly what my soul needed at that time. And I met the most incredible people, and there have been business partnerships that have come out of it. Like, it was just one of the most insane things that I ever did in my life, right? Now, so many other people wouldn't have been able to trust that. They wouldn't have been able to listen to that nudge. They would have gone, oh, I better make the logical, right business decision right now and go and speak. Right? And so, yeah, look, it's happened to me tenfold, and, you know, I'm still a student. I'm still learning to listen. I'm still diving deep into what pulls me and listening to that stuff. But I'm learning that the more and more I do that, the greater the rewards are on the other side.
But isn't that great that, you know, because so many people, and you know how it is, because we sit there and I think people wonder, I mean, we don't think we have all the answers.
No.
I think what we're trying to do is say, I mean, we share what we discover, and we're trying to, you know, share that discovery with the world. We're willing to, you know, it's like the people that climb these freakishly high mountains and they risk life and limb
Crazy
to say,
people.
hey, let me tell you what's up there.
Right.
You know, and that's what's the power of it. And you know, and so even for those listening, it's, you know, as we're talking about why people don't make it and why they don't see the manifestation, you know, that they want, it's, we don't think we have the answers.
No.
We think we're uncovering some great stuff, and we mess up a lot. But you know what's great? I love this. This is one of the reasons why I connect and I think really vibe with, you know, the way that you think and the way that you work is, that doesn't cripple us. We don't allow the thing that goes wrong to define us. And, you know, we're allowing that to, you know, become a part of what our journey is.
Right.
However, we are comfortably uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So we are comfortable. We're comfortable in being uncomfortable, saying there's more. There's another thing. It's for us to sit there, I believe, and I think I might have sent you a little message there with that, you know, having a growth mindset doesn't force you to pursue something, you know? It just tells you that you can develop your skills. It's still up to you whether you want to or not.
Right, absolutely. And for me, actually, if I feel super comfortable in my life, that now scares me, because that makes me go, oh my God, I am not growing like that. That's not a good thing, right? So I actually, if I start feeling like everything's kind of really, really comfortable, I start actually looking for ways to push myself and deliberately make myself uncomfortable. Now that might be, you know, investing in something and committing to something before I'm super ready to do that. I'll commit to it. Or it might be, you know, going to an event where I kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I do it anyway. So I actually look for things intentionally that make me feel uncomfortable, right? And most people would be like, you're crazy. But at the same time, again, it's the greatest things that come out of that when I actually step up and do that, you know?
Right, it's like just take a chance.
Right.
I mean, take a chance. And sometimes that's what you need to do. You know, it's, you ever watch, you know, kids, especially when they're trying to play sports, and I know probably New Zealand, you're probably rugby. Right?
All Blacks.
Some football or soccer, right? What else?
Rugby.
What else is a big...
Just rugby.
Rugby, okay. I mean, it's a confusing game when people don't ever experience it, but then they get out there and they start seeing the beauty and the art of the sport.
Yeah.
And how incredible it is, and the intent, you know, how intense it is, the physicality of it, the mental toughness of it, you know, and then you start seeing the finesse of the game. You start seeing, you know what I mean, like all the stuff that goes into it. But when they first started, they were horrible.
Right, yeah.
But someone had to step out there and go, all right, let me try this. Let me go ahead and take a chance on this. And sometimes you need to throw yourself into a game you're unfamiliar with.
For sure. Absolutely. Entirely agree. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and turn this, because, we know why people aren't making. We've been talking about that and why they're not manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So, hey, how do we get people on the path? What are we going to do? How can we help and encourage people to getting on the path, to making it, to seeing the manifestation of the things that they want?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get asked it a lot, like, Regan, how do I manifest more? How do I manifest faster? Or how do I manifest the things that I deeply desire? And, I think the big thing, firstly, is exactly like we talked about earlier, and locking in that vision. And, like, here's the thing, you have to be honest with yourself when you're doing this, because if you go to manifest something that's not entirely true to you, then it's not actually going to show up. I get this a lot with clients with money. They're like, I want to manifest, like, I don't know, $100 million, right? And their money stuff isn't even increasing. And so we look at it, and I'm like, do you really actually want $100 million? And then we get to the honest truth, and it's like, okay, actually $1 million would be great. And actually the honest truth is just replacing my income right now would be great, right? And so we get them to the place where it's like, oh, that's what you actually want. I think we're very good at tricking ourselves into actually pretending we want something, which is actually a form of self-sabotage, which then limits us. And if we're not being truthful, then that thing won't manifest, right? So the first thing is really locking in that higher vision. And then I ask people, I simply say, well, who would you need to become if you already knew that was a done deal? What would that version of yourself be like? What is that identity? What is that higher level version of you? How do they walk, talk, think, act, believe, right? How do you condition your mindset to automatically become that person that vibrates at that frequency, so that your big picture vision shows up by default? Right? It's no longer a goal. It's no longer I would love for that to happen. You're operating every single day from the space of, this is done. This is a done deal. You know it's happening. Now it's just time and space catching up. Right? So we've got the vision, we've got the identity of who you step into. And then I think the third thing is really going, okay, considering I know it's done, what would I be doing right now in order to have all of this manifest faster? Right? What would I actually be doing? Well, I'd be doing this, and I'd be doing that, and I'd call this person, and I'd go to this event, and I'd do this, and I'd invest in this, right? And so that's where you actually start going, wow, okay, here's what I can be doing in the physical reality, while still releasing the process and trusting that it is going to show up. Here's the actions that I can be taking right now.
That is great. And let me add to that supplementally, which would be great. So I love that. The vision, I think that's great. Identity, and then that action. Really scanning and surveying what's out there.
Yeah.
And so let me just add some little practical things, like widen your options. Like really have a willingness to widen your options. Get away from narrow focus. As well as allow yourself to reality test your assumptions. Because a lot of times, I tell people, assumption is the mother of all disappointment.
Right. Yeah.
So just be careful. So in other words, get outside of your own headspace, because we can get ourselves stuck in there. And then another one I just want to throw in there is, or two more, get some distance, from what it is that you're doing. In other words, create a little bit of distance. Get out of your head, create a little bit of space, so you can really, survey what's going on. Like Albert Einstein used to say, when he solved the problem, like, how do you do it? He says, well, what I do is I lift myself above the problem. I look down on it instead of trying to stand in the middle of it.
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that I think will help to is prepare to be wrong, but know that it's not the end.
Right.
If we could add those things in there in that mix, I think yours are the definite overarching guiding guideposts, that vision, identity, and action. And I just wanted to throw those in there as a compliment to those, for things for people to think about.
Right.
And I believe they'll get it. What do you think? People will get it. They can make it, and they can see it manifest in their life. Get the physical equivalent of what it is that they are dreaming about.
This stuff is actually very simple. It's just literally conditioning your mindset to think like this. And I love the last point about what you said of being okay with being wrong. You know, if you're trying to manifest from a space of ego, then you're going to hold yourself up, because if you are someone that needs to be right the whole time, then you're not going to get there. I mean, you might get there eventually, but you're definitely not going to get there quickly, because there's something powerful with manifestation around, you know, taking the action and creating everything and having things show up and being okay going, oh, actually that's not fully in alignment right now, and being okay to readjust. So if you've got a whole lot of ego in there going, well, I have to be right and everyone's watching, so I better stick with this thing and make it work, then you might pull yourself way out of alignment. So it really is being okay with actually not being perfect the whole time.
Right, and we want people to show up in the world, you know? We do. We want them there.
Yeah.
We want them to show up. Could you imagine, Regan, if everybody was just operating, just more and more people? I just think how much change and how much joy and happiness and just so many incredible things are just waiting to happen. It's like,
right.
You know, I can squeeze a seed in my hand all day long, but nothing is ever going to grow. I got to take it outside.
Yeah.
I got to dig it.
Oh, I've lost your audio. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Hello, hello. Type to you. Lost your audio. Hey guys, we just lost his audio. Okay, I might call him back. Okay, let's try this again. How you guys doing over here? How you doing? Hey Tara. Hey Gabby. Hey Peter. Hey Marissa. Hey Vicky. Hey Catherine. Hey Natalia. Love you. Oh. I think maybe his internet just clicked off. He's offline. I'm sure he'll buzz me back in a second. Do you guys have questions? Hey Lee. Hey Michelle. Hey Jenny. Hey Jen. Hey Carla. Hey Nasima. Hey Emily. Hey Celeste. Oh my gosh, so many cool people in here. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Okay, I'm sure he is going to pop back online soon. It looks like he is having an internet problem. You guys enjoying this chat? We actually, Tim interviewed me on a podcast a couple of months ago, and we just had like this vibing chat, which was so cool. And I was like, man, like we so have similar mindsets and resonate around the same kind of stuff. And so that's when he was like, hey, come and co-host a show. And that's what we were doing. Let's have a look. Gabby, you can have him comment on this live, and when you press on his name, you'll have the option to invite him live and do picture-to-picture. That's very cool, except he's recording this on a big thing for a podcast, so I don't think he'll be able to record that. But I love that. I didn't actually know you could do that. That is very cool. I love that. Steve, where am I today? I am at my place in LA. I'm in the Hollywood Hills. It's super pretty here. Oh, he's just come back online. I think he's back. Let's see. He's back. Okay. Hello.
Hey there. I was like, maybe she had a timer.
No. I think, did you go offline? What happened?
It just totally cut off.
So, okay.
Yeah, I'll finish that statement. So basically, what I was saying was, here, I'll just play it. Hold on a second.
Okay.
You should be able to hear this.
Okay. I can't hear anything, but that's okay. You pick up where you left off.
You can't hear it?
No, but you go for it.
Huh, that's weird. So basically what I said was, if I had a seed, so like just, hold on a second. Just imagine, are you there? Can
yes.
You hear me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. So just imagine you have a seed in your hand, And you can squeeze it all day long, and nothing's going to happen. You got to take that thing out into the outside, dig a hole, put it in the ground, and let the earth work. And that's what we want people to do. We want them out there and just imagine the things that could happen.
Right, absolutely. And I think there's power in just taking a breath. There's really power in giving yourself and your mindset space. And, in whatever way that looks like for you, that might be journaling, that might be meditation, that might be just taking a breather for 20 minutes in the morning. I definitely find that the more space I give myself in between everything throughout the day, the more I can manifest and the faster I manifest as well.
That is so true. And once again, that is just you're living into the day that you want to create, but also you're setting yourself up for the day you want to live into tomorrow.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's such because you do mindset work in the morning, correct?
Yeah.
That's one of the things you do on a regular basis.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so I have thoroughly enjoyed conversing with you today, and I'm hoping that people will get a lot out of this, and I'm going to be pitching more ideas your way so that we can hopefully do this again. I'm even thinking maybe we should do a Facebook Live. Now, don't worry, I'm not holding you to this because it's being recorded, but I would love it. You and I did some kind of Facebook Live, or even just get something where we make some sort of webinar and pull people in.
For sure.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, I'm all about creating an impact and getting my message out there in a bigger way. So any ideas you have, hit me up.
Well, I will definitely do that. So I do appreciate you and all that you do. And just you keep doing your thing. And I've been seeing you show up all over the place. And I like your words. I see you. I do. I see all the things that you're doing. And
you're awesome.
Man, I'm a big cheerleader for you. Big cheerleader.
You're so cool. And yeah, it's just great to connect with someone with a similar mindset and with a big heart that wants to impact. So I appreciate you too. It's awesome.
Well, remember, I'm your East Coast connection.
Right.
You can have all these other ones that you have, but when it comes to the United States,
right.
East Coast, you got to say, cool. I got a guy over there already.
Right.
So I know who I'm connecting with. So you guys, he's the East Coast. You got to pick another location.
Yeah, it's been claimed.
That's
it's
how
so
I claimed
cool.
it. I put, what's the guy that Edward Izzard, the comedian, he says, when they would go conquer, Britain would go conquer some nation, and they would show up and they would say, well, have you got a flag?
I love it.
And so he would stick a flag down. They go, my country.
That's so funny. I love it. That's awesome.
Anyway, well, you keep rocking out what you're doing, and I will be in touch with you.
Perfect.
And let you know when this is going out. But
sounds good.
And you've been listening to Uphill Conversations with Tim and
Regan Hillyer.
That's right. And we are so happy that you could join us. So always remember, you can be more, do more, and have more, and really get that mindset and that alignment going. And once again, we will see you on the hill.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I got it.
Cool. Got it. It was epic. It was epic.
Yes. Did you enjoy it? I mean, I don't want it to be, I don't want, I just want to know that this feels good. How did it feel?
Of course.
How did it feel?
No, it was awesome. It was a great convo. It was perfect.
Okay. And is it something that you would consider thinking about? Like, we'll just find ways to keep working on this? I mean, is that something that you feel, you would be in consideration? I'm not talking about overdoing it, but just...
For sure. Yeah, just send me through any ideas you have. It sounds good.
Okay, excellent.
Cool.
And would you like to do a quick bumper?
Oh, yeah. What do you need?
Well, it's just, hey, this is Regan Hillyer. I don't know if you want to say from Regan Hillyer International, ReganHillyer.com, whatever. Yeah. And, say one of your signature statements and then say, hey, you're listening to Uphill Conversations with Tim Pecoraro or something like that.
Cool. And your last name is Pecoraro, right?
That's right. Good Italiano.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Are you ready?
Okay, hold on a second. And 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, this is Regan Hillyer from ReganHillyer.com, and I'm here to remind you that you can have it all on your terms in whatever way that looks like for you. So you're listening right now to Uphill Conversations with Regan Hillyer and Tim Pecoraro.
Excellente.
Good.
Thank you so much. You are too kind.
Pleasure.
Hey, listen, and I don't know how to approach this. This is because I know she's kind of connected with you, but I've been concerned. Vicky,
Mm-hmm.